A stack of unpaid bills, a brutal breakup, or a string of rejected resumes. In this specific brand of folklore, these common hardships serve as the starting point for a haunting, the initial lure used to pull a victim in. Take 19-year-old Akash. Devastated by his girlfriend's betrayal, he turns to a dating app at 2:30 in the morning, searching for any sign that he is still wanted. Or Ajitesh, a merchant in Kanpur. He watches his brother arrive in luxury cars while his own fabric business slowly collapses under a mountain of debt. Then there is Danish. Struggling with anxiety and long-term unemployment, he moves into the overwhelming, crowded streets of a new city to start a job he's terrified of losing. These entities target specific psychological states. Desperation and emotional exhaustion create a vacuum, a hollow space that ancient, malevolent forces are ready to occupy. Curious, sometimes the vulnerability is a lack of fear. Annie, a British journalist, travels the world to find supposedly haunted locations, convinced she can prove they are nothing more than urban legends. She targets a hotel in London with a dark reputation, walking past its massive timber-framed exterior with a camera and a skeptic's perspective. She chooses room 333, a Victorian-era suite where a doctor once killed his wife and himself, determined to document the lack of any real activity. Annie's arrogance and Akash's heartbreak serve the exact same mechanical function. They both create a blind spot, allowing a supernatural trap to be triggered without the victim ever seeing it coming. Once an entity engages a target, it leads with a miracle. It offers a solution that seems to fix every problem, provided the victim is willing to make a sacrifice that defies nature. For Danish, that sacrifice is drinking Sharbat-e-Roo, a glowing red liquid provided by a stranger. One sip replaces his lifelong anxiety with an artificial, overwhelming self-confidence. Ajitesh's deal is more visceral. To secure his wealth, he must perform the Kak Tantra, a ritual that requires him to slice his finger every morning to mix his own blood into grain for a flock of crows. The entities provide immediate results. Danish dominates his office. Ajitesh moves into a mansion and watches losses become profits. This upfront reward is a calculated move. It buys the victim's loyalty and ensures they remain blind to the true hidden cost of the contract they've just signed. This timeline tracks the progression of an encounter. We begin with the initial reward, the moment of relief, which spikes into a sharp curve of escalating warnings. The intensity increases as the entity gains ground, accelerating toward a terminal point where escape is no longer possible. At first, these warnings are easy to rationalize. When a hotel maid named Rupa hears dragging sounds and sees inverted footsteps in a corridor, she convinces herself her mind is playing tricks. Even physical pain is explained away. Sanvi travels to the mountains for her wedding and watches her skin burn with red welts under her bridal henna. She tells herself it is just the stress of the ceremony. Victims will even rationalize the behavior of their family. Amita finds her husband digging a human-sized hole in their garden at 4 in the morning and assumes he is simply sleepwalking. The most extreme case is Akash looking into his bedroom mirror and seeing a rotting corpse sitting on his bed, where his date should be, and he still chooses to believe it is a temporary hallucination. The trap relies on this human tendency to normalize the impossible. By the time the logic fails, the victim has already walked too far into the darkness to find their way back. Once the terminal point is crossed, the narrative shifts. While some traditions favor a lucky escape, these stories allow for no redemption. The physical ends are absolute. Rupa is beheaded in a ritual sacrifice. Sanvi is strangled by her own wedding necklace and thrown into a forest ravine. Family bonds are twisted into weapons. When Ajitesh misses a blood payment, his son transforms into a monster and mauls him to death. Danish goes to the police, only to find the street where he bought the syrup has been a burnt-out ruin for a century. He realizes too late that the price of his confidence was never money. He is forced to watch as his entire family is drained of blood, their souls trapped inside vintage apothecary jars, to provide the ingredients for the next batch of syrup. In this universe, a demonic pact is an unbreakable contract. There are no heroes to intervene, and no hidden loopholes to save the victim at the final hour. These stories remain effective because they pit ancient, unforgiving folklore against very modern anxieties, unemployment, debt, and the need for validation. Legends of pishakinis, soul-drinking hakims, and tantrics are used to punish the modern desire for a shortcut. Across every story, the ghost or demon is a symptom rather than the source. These entities act as mirrors, reflecting the victim's own unchecked greed or desperation back at them until it consumes them. Every desire carries a cost, and when the entity finally comes to collect, the debt is always paid in blood.